We usually hear in training the concept of aerobic and anaerobic. That anaerobic training is further divided into lactic and alactic. So we also hear about lactic acid, lactic acidosis, and lactate. However, many don't understand very well what is what, and from biochemistry, these terms are not quite correct. And in this video, I will explain you why.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side.
Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Many times we hear that long duration exercise, low to moderate intensity such as jogging or long distance cycling is called aerobic training, and short duration intense exercise is called anaerobic. So let's take a closer look at each concept. From the 60s onwards, studies began to be carried out and energy system models were established. Therefore, the metabolic pathways were established depending on the duration and time of exercise, anaerobic and aerobic, dividing the first one in lactic and lactic. It's mentioned that the anaerobic metabolic pathway is used during intense activity. When we talk about anaerobic, we refer to life in the absence of oxygen, so this pathway will be in the absence of oxygen. In alactic anaerobic, the prefix A refers to the fact that lactate isn't being generated, and in lactic anaerobic precisely that lactate is produced. It's mentioned that the lactate is accumulated as waste in the muscle, generating lactic acidosis. Even in some cases, it's mentioned that what it produces is lactic acid and that this generates lactic acidosis that causes muscle cramps and fatigue. So let's start by saying that the term anaerobic is wrong in the sense that it has been reported that the maximum drop in partial pressure of oxygen in strenuous muscular activity can reach 10 millimeters of mercury, 9 times more than the minimum amount of oxygen necessary for the mitochondria to function. This evidence indicates that there is no true state of anaerobiosis during intense physical efforts. It's important to note that anaerobic metabolism is not a pathway that works in the absence of oxygen, but that it doesn't use oxygen. In other words, it's not oxygen dependent. Now, with respect to the term alactic to refer to the phosphagen system, it can be considered as inappropriate because although it's true that this system doesn't produce lactate, it's always being produced. Glycolysis isn't deactivated at any time, either at rest or during physical effort. This misnomer led to classify explosive exercises of short duration and high intensity as alactic exercises. Therefore, the anaerobic lactic concept would also be incorrect, since lactate isn't a final waste product produced in anaerobic conditions in the muscle cell during physical effort, but a metabolite that is constantly produced and removed at different rates. As described above, the two metabolic mechanisms of ATP restoration that are oxygen independent are proposed to be called extra mitochondrial or oxygen independent, this being phosphagen pathway system and glycolytic system. With respect to lactic acid, publications in recent decades have pointed out that there's no biochemical support for the claim that lactic acid and subsequently lactic acidosis is produced at physiological pH. The result of glycolysis is pyruvate and lactate. Pyruvic acid is also not achieved. Now, if we talk about the term aerobic, we refer to the process by which oxygen breathing beings convert fuel such as fats or sugars into energy. The key organ of aerobic respiration is the mitochondria, where the glucose molecule goes through a multi-step process, mainly glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain. At the end of this process, 36 molecules of adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, are generated from a single molecule of glucose. I have taken this information from an article that reviews several articles on the subject. I will leave the link in the description in case you want to take a look at it. The article proposes to use the following terminology. Instead of saying anaerobic lactic exercise, we can say explosive efforts. duration up to 6 seconds. Instead of saying anaerobic lactic exercise, we can use the term high-intensity efforts. Efforts comprised between 6 seconds to 1 minute. Instead of saying aerobic exercise, we could say endurance-intensive efforts for exercise bouts longer than 1 minute. Finally, I would like to mention that knowledge is dynamic, not static. Therefore, many things you learn or that you believe to be true are not quite so. For example, until recently I took for granted that aerobic and anaerobic exercise were correct terms and that it was a truth. Even many of my teachers at the university spoke in terms of aerobic and anaerobic. In fact, in many scientific articles you will find the use of these terms. No one has absolute knowledge or a total truth, so always question yourself. Maybe even many things that I have said in this video are not entirely correct, but if we can get a little closer to accurate information, and therefore important to continue to expand knowledge, it's important that people develop the ability to know how to find, analyze, organize, and apply information or content in their professional and personal activities. The ability to take responsibility to their own learning and to be flexible and adaptable in the development of new knowledge and skills. Without further to add, thanks for watching the video. If you have any question, you want more information, just call to the phone that appears on the screen. Just kidding. If you have any question, any doubt, just let me know down below in the comments. And guys, if you like the video, just leave me a like, subscribe, it's completely free, and see you guys in the next video.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on